Hey y'all, I'm Karen Mayer Cunningham, the special education boss. If you've ever felt confused, overwhelmed, or just plain frustrated at the 504 IEP table, you are in the right place. Every week, I'm breaking down the rules, the rights, and the realities of special education so you can walk into meetings informed, empowered, and ready to make real change. And whether you're a parent, a teacher, an advocate, a school-based member, or somebody who's just trying to do right by a student, this podcast gives you straight talk, real answers, and tools that you can use immediately. I'm not here to play politics. I'm not here to play sides. I'm here to train people who sit at the table and teach you how to follow the law, ask the right questions, and protect the rights of students. So go ahead and hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change. We're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.
To talk about the importance of, I've been studying a lot about inertia, but a body at rest tends to stay at rest, and how important that is, whatever age you are, especially for our children. There's so little that they are allowed to participate, even if it's in physical education in school, about how that impacts their longevity, their wellness, how they recover from sickness, any of that.
Yeah, so exactly. That sedentary lifestyle they think that that's worse than anything else, like whether from our older population or just, individuals. And that's why, that's why we want to really hit these kids while they're in high school or younger possibly, to get them, um, you know, to get them liking fitness or thinking about fitness differently, like it's not a hard thing, or taking the time to show them that it could be fun, or and that's hugely important because like I said, my sister, she's 49 now, and I'll take, when I go back home, I'll take her for a walk, and she's out of breath after a half block, and she doesn't, because no, we never spent the time with her, doing that, right? The
Right.
physical educate. And so that's why, we found also, so we work with some ABA clinics, and we went into an ABA clinic, and they loved it because we did 3 classes from their 2 to 10 year olds, and divide them up. And we came in there once a week, and they found that all their scores, their speech therapy, their OT, all their therapies, went way up.
Yeah.
And also, and I guess they call them behaviorals, like the less behaviorals too, because they kind of got that energy out and stuff. And they were saying that was amazing. That's why they invited us in there to do that. So I think that, it's just huge. It's huge. And especially, uh, as you know, like certain populations will have a tendency to gain a little bit more weight, but are different things like that. So we want to get them healthy. You want to extend their lives. I think a lot of the, I don't know the statistics on this at all, but I would in general say that, the special needs population probably have a shorter lifespan than the average person. And I think big part of that is because of that sedentary lifestyle. Whether, society kind of push that on, because I don't think society back in the day when I was younger really knew what to do with them or had programs. I think
Right.
we're moving in the right direction. We're starting to get these options and stuff, but I think I just think in general, like just the whole social aspect is what I really, we see such a huge, huge, huge thing in my sister, like whether I was in high school, we're like, hey, Melissa, you want to come to the movies with, me and my friend? And she'd be so excited, she'd feel like one in that social connection. I think that us neurotypicals take for granted sometimes. And then also what I see now is there's a lot more stuff going on. And I always kind of teach parents about this. They're like, so I threw a social, and they're like, well, why you have it on this day? We have this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to feel bad about this for doing another thing or option these kids have. You know what they get now? They get the power of choice. I know that they never had the power of choice. So tell them you have this, this, and this, and they
Yeah.
can choose. That's when their personality comes out too. They get the power of choice, which is fantastic. They might have 2 or 3 options a day. My sister might have 2 or 3 options a year, right? So as we grow as a society and be more inclusive, I think that the choice is awesome. And some kids, it's funny because we'll give them a choice in our class, like, okay, you can do this or this, and they're just looking at you like,
What?
what do you mean? or like I like if they do really good, I'll be like, all right, you get to choose the next thing we get to choose anything you want. And they're just like don't know what to do. But now, after a while they're like, oh, I'm like, they get to choose, which is it's great to see, like that's the power of choice is something that and I didn't realize it till I started working for Special Strong that I took that for granted. And that's a great thing is to have
Yeah.
choice. So
And something you were talking about, that socialization. I have permission from my client, but I know that you work with Rusty, and his parents are dear friends of mine. And he's becoming an adult, and Max and Angel will say, he didn't want to be with his parents all the time, right? And for me, my mother and I live together now, and she didn't want to be with me either. She's like, "Don't bring me." Right? Nobody wants to be babied, whether they're 90 or 9, and that being in an inclusive setting and population. But I think it's remarkable the work that you've done with Rusty. Rusty is a student that I serve who uses a VOCD, a voice output communication device, and I've been working with that family since he was 8. And you have and your staff have just brought him in, worked his rear end off, and you use his voice output communication device, which I can't get schools to use unless I file a federal or state complaint. And so, can you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, so we have students of all different abilities, and a lot of them will use communication devices. I haven't got permission from some of my students, so I can't say names, but they'll just start just got a device, and so now they're communicating with us, and they have so much to say because we I think one of the biggest mis misrepresentations these if kids are nonverbal, they don't hear or understand you. No, they hear and they understand everything perfect. They just might not be able to communicate with you. So these devices are fantastic. Like we ask questions, they can respond back, and I think they're really neat. I think it's given a lot of these young kids and adults a voice, which is like I said, this is where the personality, this is where their confidence comes from. It's a neat thing to see.
Yeah, I had one of my families that I serve. She said just because that they're non-speaking doesn't mean they're non-hearing.
Oh yeah. Are
Right? I
you?
mean, they understand completely everything that you said
Yeah.
or you didn't say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I something I did this weekend was waves of impact, and I just saw some pictures. I guess Rusty was there.
Yes, I saw
Was
them
there?
too. So
He was
good.
there Friday. I was there Saturday. And
Okay.
so that's a fantastic. Ashley and those guys do. I try to also volunteer for these other groups, just because a lot of groups, and which is fantastic to see, they have a lot of volunteers these days, but sometimes they don't have the volunteers that might understand this population, work with this population. So that's where I think me and my coach would like to volunteer and really see, I get in there because a lot of we know a lot of these kids and young adults. I had she came up to me. She's like, "Hey, we have two boys, two twins. One is really, doesn't really like the water or whatever." I'm like, "Well, I know him, so you stick him with me, stick the other one over there." And 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 so they're kind of, they're off, like they're like wandering around and stuff like that. And people, they're like, "Hey, we need to get them up here." So all it is like, "Hey," I said their names, come over here now." And they came over and everybody's like, "What?" I'm like, "Well, I know these guys,
Yeah.
so and we got the one brother that was never stood up on a surfboard, didn't really kind of shied away from it. We got him standing up, and his mom texted me after. She's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." So it was a really good thing to see. But yeah, this, just in general, like I think the communication, like Spellers, like did you see the movie Spellers? Yeah, I was invited by one of my moms to watch that. It was like an independent film, um but yeah, I think, yeah, Rusty's such a good kid. He's
Yeah.
he's
He
grown
is
up
so
right
nice.
before
I
our
love
eyes.
him. Yeah.
He's just he isn't he grown up like he's turned into like a young man and just
I know. Every time I see him, I'm like, what? Yeah. I think Rusty and I both have the same size hair. I love him. So, one of the things you were talking about is our kids don't because they weren't given the opportunity. It's not because they couldn't have. We just no, they don't do that because you never gave them an opportunity to learn that. And so I think that's so good that I know for me, there's so many things in special ed that we measure, right? We measure cognition and achievement and all of these things, but we can never measure being with your peers. That is the
Yes.
one thing that but and we are pack animals. Humans are pack animals. We're meant to be together. I saw a stat the other day. I was telling Daniel, and it's I don't know for neurotypical population. It said the average person spends 9 years on their couch watching TV. Oh my gosh. And so I don't want to be that person. So one of the things I asked Daniel, and I'll put you on the spot, because I want you to pressure him gently in Jesus' name to do this. But I would love to see a mom and me program or a dad and me program, because usually, you know, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. And if he's sedentary, then the parent's probably gonna be sedentary, if nothing else, to be with the student. So we would love for that to come alongside.
Yeah, I have had a couple parents reach out. So one thing that we've done down here, and like I said, we have a fantastic relationship with Anytime Fitness. So even though their kids are, will be paying for our service or whatever, they give them a free membership. So if your kids are there, you can work out. As long as you sign the waiver, you can work out while your kids are working out. And so a lot of parents do it because their kids see them like they're going to work out, and it's great because all the parents are like, well, and I like on Saturday, I'll have 4 or 5 different parents that work out together there while their kids are doing a couple of our classes, and we encourage that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that just in so so the mom and me. So I thought about that. So another dynamic that we have too is, and you said it with your mom, or we have these kids where we also promote drinking lots of water. We don't want them to drink sodas and stuff.
Yeah.
Also, we're not nutrition coaches. We might have our nutrition certificates, but we talk about, hey, what did you eat? We'll talk to them, or you know.
Yeah.
And help them along the ways, but we encourage drinking water. That's why we give everybody a water bottle. And then like one of the parents like, yeah, I tell them to drink water all the time, but they don't. But all of a sudden they will if Coach Mike or Coach Jeff tells them to.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I did the same thing when I was younger. Like, Mom, I know. And then my coach will do it, and my mom will be like, why are you doing that? It's like, well, coach said. It's like, I've been telling you that for years. Like, it just doesn't compute.
Yeah.
You have that, it's a different dynamic. So but yeah.
Without giving us all the details, when you had your job that you liked or loved, or it was your job just over broke, how did you just say it was? Did you transition? Did you grow this? Because obviously you didn't have all of these territories at the beginning. Did you start out part-time?
Yeah, well, yeah, I basically, I mean, at the very beginning, I guess when I was studying for my certifications and kind of setting everything up, I kind of had a part-time job, but really once I did my grand opening, it's a full-time job. As a small business owner, you handle everything. I mean, I'm getting big enough where I have, an assistant now, and office assistant or to help me with different things, but I mean, you set everything up. And I actually I wanted to do that too. I think some of our newer franchises might have some of that stuff taken care of for them. But I did everything. I'm kind of a hands-on person, right? So if I'm doing one-on-one training, group classes, design those classes, I want to do it all. So now when I hire my coaches and they have questions for me, I know exactly what. I don't just say figure it out. It's like, oh, I ran into this too. I've had the same, issues, and I think that went a long way to start out. The first thing I did was just get involved in the community. That's the first thing I did. Just get
Yeah.
involved in the community. And as a lot of parents, just like my mom, if you have anybody like, hey, Melissa, or your daughter should do this, you'd be like, well, who is this person?
Right.
But if they see you at all these other events, volunteering, having fun, and doing all this, and they're like, oh wait, who are you? And
Yeah.
they see you involved in the community, that goes a long way. That's kind of that trust, because we do have to, with our loved ones that have special needs, we have to be guarded with them, right? Not everybody, we love them the most, so we have to teach them the right things, but not everybody in society is going to treat them with love and respect, or, the harsh reality of society. So, it's a fine line, but yeah, so I just got involved. All the different groups. One of the groups I'm sure you're familiar with, in the GH Feds.
Yeah.
So That's one of my favorite ones, just because it's a Down syndrome group, but that's what my mom envisions trying to organize something like that in Montana, but we just, um, but that's down, Step Up for Down syndrome. So my dance class will do a performance there on the stage there, and my
Yeah.
kickboxing will do a little performance and stuff there too. So it's just being involved, everything like actually starting 2 weekends ago, all the way through December, every Saturday I have at least one or two events. And I'm talking about events like the autism walks, the ALS walks. We have a lot of walks we do, you know, uh, the waves of impact, just different things like that. We're always out and about. We're doing a float, in a parade. We're doing, some of these day halves will do their showcases or their events, so we don't just, we show up and serve too. So
Also, are you familiar with Gigi's Playhouse?
yes, it's
Yeah, I
funny
did
you
a big event for them. I'm also a stand-up comic, which of course my teachers in school appreciated.
Somebody
So
was telling me about that. They're like, you got to check this out. I'm like, I can't remember what parent was telling me. Yeah. The
yes,
Genie Playhouse. There, I've been approached by him a couple of. I had a really good conversation with. Must have been the one that's a little bit north, but I met them at the Lakewood Church Resource
yeah,
Fair, and Gigi's Playhouse is there, and they're like, "What do you do?"
I
Oh,
was at that. I wasn't at that this year. I was at it last year. The
yeah,
Lakewood. Yeah,
yeah. It's probably one of the bigger ones that in Houston for sure.
yeah. Do you ever do anything? I just spoke last week for Partners Network.
Partners Resource Network.
Yeah, so I'm going to connect you with them whether you like it or not. So they are amazing. They're a lot like side by side, and they're federally
Okay.
funded and state funded. They are amazing. But what you do is just groundbreaking. I have a teacher that I'm working with in Austin that's going to look at the franchise, who's a Olympian and a Paralympian and a PE teacher. We don't have adaptive physical education, even as a related service under IDEA in every state. We don't have it in Florida. Ugh. We don't have it in
Ugh.
Kentucky. I told him, I said, that's why you've never won the Super Bowl. So, and I mean, it's so needed, right?
Yeah.
And so, do you work with elderly if they are just elderly? If they're
Yeah.
not, at the honky tonk every weekend and they just need adaptive workout?
No, yeah. So there's several adults that are older, like, hey, my son, he's 31 or he's 40. We need to get him moving. He's gaining a lot of weight, whether he has that, like my sister loves salty and sugary stuff. Like if you would let her eat McDonald's every day for every meal, she will.
Yeah, and anybody
Yeah.
would if it becomes addictive,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom, when I was talking to my mom the other day, she's like, hey, guess what? So we have my sister in an apartment, right? And we have staff come in or get her up and going. She calls her job for a state day have. And then we have, someone comes back to help cook her meals and stuff like that. She's like, yeah, there's 2 gallons of chocolate milk in there in her fridge. I'm like,
Oh,
what? And so I'm like, why? She's like, that's what I asked. I asked, like, and it was a new person, a new one of her caretakers, and they're like, well, she said she doesn't take her pills without chocolate milk. And my mom's like, listen, if you're gonna fall for that one, she's gonna,
she's just running you.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's just running. And my sister does that. She doesn't ever do it to me anymore, or
Yeah.
it doesn't. But new people, she's gonna test you, and that. So I also know that we come with that adults, and they do the same thing to us. So,
I think that's interesting. I had somebody that said something that, somebody did something like that. I said, well, manipulation is a high reasoning skill. So
yeah,
congratulations, your child is neurotypical, right?
yeah,
Because
no,
yeah,
yeah,
that's what manipulation is. They know how to work the program. So we're going to put your information at the bottom. So
sure.
people in Houston area can learn about your services. We're so thankful that you are um, serving this population. People always say it's so nice that you work with those kids. I'm like, you mean the human kids?
Yeah,
But it's a call, right? I always tell people I would do this till I was 120 years old, whether I got paid or not, because it's just in my bones. It's in
yeah,
my bones to help this population. And so we're excited to partner with you. Anything that we can do to help support you, let us know. But we're going to put your information on all of our platforms. And we're so excited that you were here today. Can we have you back sometime in the future?
yeah, absolutely. The last thing I want to piggyback on your thing. We have parents all the time, like, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I go, as much as it helps the kids, it is that much rewarding for us coaches too. Like
Yeah.
we want to thank you, like, thank you for, trusting your kids or young adults with us, but I get to come to work. I get to do this,
Yeah.
and so that's all
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
think.
It's amazing. So, thank you so much for what you do. We'll be in touch soon, and we'll get this out for everybody. If you guys have any questions, we're going to put our information at the bottom. Always, you can reach us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. We can get you connected to Mike. And remember, we get it right for the child. We get it right for everybody.
Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change, we're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.